Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're navigating the pretty complex world of personal growth and relationships, particularly for men. If you've ever felt, just overwhelmed by all the advice out there on what it means to be confident or authentic or really connected in modern relationships, well, this deep dive is definitely for you.
Yeah, and our mission today really is to cut through some of that noise. We're going to try and extract practical, actionable knowledge from, honestly, a really diverse stack of sources,
Yeah.
hopefully helping you gain some clarity, maybe some confidence in your own life and connections. We've pulled from, let's see, a fascinating Reddit discussion on Intelexit, key summaries of Robert Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy, Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, an intro to David Demita and The Way of the Superior Man. Some practical wisdom from the Atomic Habits cheat sheet and a Reddit thread talking about that, plus insights from the Mask You Live In documentary.
Wow, okay. That's quite a mix.
It is. It's eclectic, but each one offers a unique lens on, a pretty nuanced subject.
Okay, so to really unpack this idea of modern masculinity, we probably had to start with something a lot of guys run into.
Yeah.
The nice guy conundrum. When Robert Glover talks about nice guy syndrome in his book No More Mr. Nice Guy, he's not actually talking about genuine kindness, is he?
No, not at all. It's much more subtle and, frankly, kind of destructive. What's really fascinating is this core insight about a covert contract.
Covert contract.
Yeah. So the nice guy acts nice, but it's not out of genuine care. It's because he has this unspoken secret deal in his head, like, if I'm good enough or helpful enough or selfless enough, then I'll get what I want.
Ah, right. Whether that's approval or sex or love or whatever.
Exactly. But the problem, of course, is the other person never signed up for this deal. They don't even know it exists.
And Glover points out this, dangerous assumption that just being nice equals being good.
Mm-hmm.
But if your niceness is transactional, if you're being nice to get something back, well, that's not really kindness, is it? It's operating from hidden expectations.
Precisely. And that inevitably leads to resentment.
Okay.
It creates this really destructive cycle. The nice guy gives and gives, internally expecting payback. When it doesn't come, because why would it? Resentment builds up, and this can come out sideways, Passive-aggressive stuff, sarcastic jabs, withdrawal, or even emotional outbursts.
Right.
The book really emphasizes that people are drawn to confidence and authenticity, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Glover says something like, a person's rough edges and human imperfections give others something to connect with.
That's a great point. So if it's not about genuine kindness, where does this whole pattern come from?
Well, Glover argues it's not really a character flaw, it's more of a learned behavior, often rooted way back in childhood.
What kind of experiences?
Things like emotional or even physical abandonment, conditional love, where affection was tied to being good or pleasing parents, or maybe having an absent father, leaving boys without a strong model for, healthy masculinity. It also extends to perfectionist families where any mistake was heavily punished. All these things can instill what Glover calls toxic shame.
Toxic shame. That sounds heavy.
It is. It's that deep internalized belief that you're fundamentally flawed or unworthy of love just as you are. And that shame then fuels this constant drive to people pleasers, basically as a way to try and prove your worth.
Wow, okay. And that Reddit discussion we looked at, it highlighted a common social trap tied to the whole sarcasm thing.
Yeah, that was interesting. It drew a really clear line between, insulting sarcasm, the example was, guess you can't handle art films then, huh? Versus a more respectful way of disagreeing.
Right, like the alternative. Not usually my thing, unless you call The Princess Bride a romantic comedy. Which one would you recommend? Much different vibe.
Totally different. It's about social astuteness, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thread pointed out that, yeah, humor can be sarcastic, but you gotta deploy it carefully, especially if you're trying to make a good impression. An insult, even if you frame it as a joke, can just shut down connection. Confident people might use playful teasing or banter, but that's about mutual enjoyment, building rapport, not putting someone down.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, so moving beyond this nice guy trap, how do men start to redefine masculinity and cultivate, genuine assertiveness? Glover lays out a path towards what he calls the integrated male.
Mm-hmm. And the first critical step is a huge shift, really. It's moving from seeking external approval, always needing others to say you're okay, to cultivating self-approval and actually prioritizing your own needs.
That sounds hard, but necessary.
It's fundamental. It involves things like practicing self-care, learning to actually sit with discomfort instead of immediately trying to fix it or run away from it, and, crucially, setting clear boundaries. Just recognizing that having needs is human. And meeting those needs yourself isn't selfish, it's vital for healthy relationships. It's like the airplane mask thing, right? Put your own mask on first. You can't connect authentically if you're metaphorically suffocating.
Good analogy. And this idea of reclaiming personal power, it's not about controlling others, is it?
No, exactly. It's about controlling your own responses, your own choices. Glover has a great line. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of what one can't change and changing what one can. He also has this thing called the second date rule. Ask yourself, if this behavior happened on a second date, would there have been a third? It's a quick gut check for unacceptable stuff you might be putting up with.
Oh, I like that. A practical filter. What about emotions?
Yeah, healthy emotional expression is another big piece. Knee stolets. Guys often suppress emotions, right? They worry it looks weak. But that just leads to unhealthy explosions later. So the advice is to actually identify and name your emotions. Get beyond just fine or angry. Find healthy outlets like exercise or journaling. The goal is expressing feelings honestly without blaming others.
It's interesting you mentioned that because Glover also points out that many nice guys struggle with strong male connections. They often feel more comfortable around women.
That's right. But the book really emphasizes the importance of male friendships. Seeking out male mentors, maybe joining male focus groups, learning from other men's experiences, even engaging in healthy competition.
So the point isn't to exclude women.
Not at all. It's about helping men develop a secure sense of their own masculinity that's independent of female approval. That allows for more integrated self, less need for validation from just one source.
Okay. And when it comes to actual relationships?
Glover advises against trying to be the perfect boyfriend or getting into what he calls fixer-upper relationships. Be direct about your intentions. And, crucially, don't use sex for validation. He also brings up the victim triangle. You heard of this. Caretaker, victim, persecutor.
Vaguely, yeah. People fall into roles.
Exactly. The caretaker tries to fix everyone. The victim feels helpless. The persecutor blames everyone. Recognizing if you're stuck in one of those patterns and actively breaking free is massive for healthy relationships.
That ties into integrity then, authenticity.
Absolutely. Glover defines integrity pretty simply. Deciding what feels right and doing it. It means figuring out your core values, telling the truth even when it's hard, keeping commitments to yourself, and admitting when you're wrong. Even if that means disappointing someone else sometimes, that's the path to genuine self-confidence.
And the final piece for this integrated male.
It's about creating a life you actually love, instead of just reacting to please others. Identifying your passions, setting challenging goals for yourself, developing a sense of purpose bigger than just your relationships, not waiting for permission to build the life you want.
Okay, that's a powerful framework from Glover. Yeah. And it sounds like there are overlaps with Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Definitely. Peterson's book offers a complementary perspective, really emphasizing personal responsibility and finding meaning, in the chaos of life. A lot of his rules echo these themes of assertiveness and self-worth.
Like that first rule, stand up straight with your shoulders back. It seems so simple, but what's the deeper connection?
Well, it's an embodiment, isn't it? That physical posture is like a metaphor for taking up your rightful space in the world, asserting your presence. And other rules, like treat yourself like you would someone you are responsible for helping, or pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And tell the truth, or at least don't lie. They all push you towards building a more robust, authentic self.
Peterson also talks about agreeableness. And I remember reading somewhere that, for men, being less agreeable correlates with higher earnings. But that sounds tricky.
It is tricky. It's vital to distinguish between compliance, just following rules, being polite, which society needs, and compassion, that genuine drive to be good. Compassion is great, but if it's unbalanced, it can lead to being taken advantage of, which is where the nice guy often trips up.
So it's about balance.
Yeah, both Glover and Peterson, in their own ways, suggest that countering that people-pleasing tendency requires a healthy dose of assertiveness. Not aggression, but assertiveness. Setting boundaries, valuing yourself, finding that balance.
Okay, so we've covered internal shifts, self-worth, assertiveness. But what about the dynamics between men and women? David Yeda comes at this from a really different angle in the way of the superior man. He talks about sexual essence.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept. And look, we should say up front, some people find Yeda's generalizations controversial, using terms like masculine and feminine essences.
Right, how does he frame it to avoid just being stereotypical?
He's careful to say it's an inner psychological quality, distinct from physical gender, although often aligned. He frames it as a core inner drive. Deida's fundamental assertion is that those with the predominant masculine essence are fundamentally searching for freedom,
Freedom. How so?
often through their mission or career, creative work, sports, philosophy, even just needing space, release, unwinding with a beer maybe. It's about release from constraint.
Okay. And the feminine essence.
Fundamentally searches for love, primarily seeking fulfillment in intimate relationships, family, friendships, connection, fullness.
Gotcha. So these different core drives.
Yeah.
That's where misunderstandings happen.
Big time. For example, a man with that masculine drive might need to get out, pull away when he feels constrained or burdened, just to find that sense of freedom or clarity.
Right, but his partner may be operating from that feminine essence, seeking love and connection.
Might interpret that withdrawal as a lack of love or rejection when really it's about his need for release.
And conversely.
Deida suggests men are often turned on by a woman's radiance and energy, her aliveness, whereas women are often most turned on by a man's depth of presence, his trustable integrity, unshakable love, and confidence in his mission. When these different kind of complementary drives aren't understood, yeah, conflict is almost guaranteed.
This also puts a different spin on that old idea that women like a challenge.
Totally. Deida's take is that attractive men are challenging, but it's a byproduct of their attractive qualities, not the goal itself.
How so?
It stems from non-neediness. A confident man, grounded in his purpose, is naturally less available, less dependent on female validation. He might tease or banter playfully, not just fawn. He isn't trying to be challenging. His focus is just elsewhere, on his purpose.
Interesting. And what about his advice for taming drama with love and humor? That sounds bold.
It is, and it often goes against a typical masculine instinct. When faced with a woman's intense emotions or moods, the masculine tendency is often to analyze, problem solve, try to fix it.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Right. But Deida says, forget the analysis. Often what looks like drama stems from her not feeling fully heard, loved, appreciated in that moment. So instead of logic, offer immediate, unmistakable love. A hug, deep presence, reassurance. He argues that direct expression of love can often transform her mood way more effectively than trying to reason her out of it.
That's probably a tough one for a lot of guys to internalize. Goes against the grain. Deida also talks about relationship stages, right? Like an evolution.
Yeah, he outlines 3 stages. Stage 1 is kind of the 1950s patriarchy, traditional roles, codependence, often leading to underlying dissatisfaction for both.
Okay, then stage 2.
Stage 2 is more like the 1970s reaction. He calls it matriarchy and confusion.
Great.
Roles got scrambled, independence became key, often leading to power struggles, less polarity, more sameness sometimes.
And stage 3, where we are now, or heading.
Stage 3 is what he sees for the 21st century and beyond, moving past dependence and independence towards interdependence, where real men are being real men, real women are real women, meaning both fully embodying their authentic essence, whatever that is for them, masculine or feminine. It's about integration.
He also dives into sexuality and spirituality, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's kind of his specialty. He argues against the old idea that you have to choose between them. He suggests men often find spiritual connection outside of life, meditation, emptiness, purpose, while women find it within life through love, celebration, fullness. And that sexuality, approached with presence and love, can be a profound spiritual path for both.
So if you had to pull out just a couple of the most maybe surprising or impactful takeaways from the way of the superior man for someone listening.
One that always stands out is, know your purpose. Deida is adamant that a man's core life purpose must come before his relationship. It needs to be pursued relentlessly. That provides a deep fulfillment nothing else can.
Purpose first.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Maybe don't fix her. Embrace the feminine's emotional flow. It's chaos, even, with love and presence, not with analysis or trying to solve it like it's a math problem. Give love, not logic, in those moments.
Powerful ideas.
Mhm.
So we've got these frameworks from Glover, Peterson, Deida. Really insightful stuff.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do any of this? How do we make these changes stick in real life?
Exactly. That's the bridge we need to cross. Understanding is one thing, implementation is another. And that's where something like James Clear's Atomic Habits becomes incredibly useful. It's all about the how.
Right, because breaking nice guy patterns or building assertiveness or living more from your core essence, that's all habit change, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's behavior change. And Clear gives us those 4 laws. Let's take the first one. Make it obvious for good habits or make it invisible for bad ones. Think about people pleasing. You need to first become aware of the cues that trigger it. What situation, what feeling. Make the cue obvious. Then you can start designing your environment, your routines, to make authentic responses the more obvious, easier path.
Okay, so it's about awareness and then structuring things to support the change. What about law 2? Make it attractive. How does that apply?
Well, the nice guy behavior, that people pleasing, it can feel attractive in the short term, right? You get that little hit of approval, maybe avoid conflict. So to change, you need to make the new behavior authenticity, setting boundaries more attractive. Clear talks about temptation bundling. Maybe pair having that difficult, authentic conversation with doing something you genuinely enjoy right after. Or, and this is huge, join groups or cultures where self-respect and assertiveness are the norm. Make the desired behavior socially attractive.
Gotcha. Make the good stuff appealing. Then make it easy. How do you make setting a boundary easy when you're used to just saying yes?
You lower the barrier. Start small. That's Clear's 2-minute rule. Don't aim to set some massive boundary immediately. Maybe just practice saying, let me think about that, instead of an instant yes. Or just saying no to a tiny low-stakes request. Or prime the environment. Like, have a few pre-written phrases for setting boundaries ready on your phone so when the moment comes, it's slightly easier to deploy one.
Reduce the friction. Okay.
And for the bad habits, like constantly seeking validation online, increase the friction. Log out of apps, put your phone in another room, make it harder to do.
Makes sense. And the last law, make it satisfying. Saying no might feel uncomfortable initially, not satisfying. How do you reward the new behavior?
This is where things like habit trackers are gold. Every time you choose integrity over pleasing, mark it down. Don't break the chain. Seeing that progress is satisfying. Or get an accountability partner. Share your intentions. Having someone to report back to adds a layer of social satisfaction, or avoids the dissatisfaction of letting them down. Clear also talks about immediate reinforcement. Find small ways to reward yourself right after you do the hard thing.
And it's not just the laws, right? He talks about the 1% rule.
Yeah, small improvements compound massively over time. And identity-based habits focusing on becoming the type of person who's assertive or authentic rather than just focusing on the single action. It's about changing who you believe you are. Systems over goals.
This really ties everything together, the why from Glover, Peterson, the Ida, and the how from Clear. But there's also this bigger societal picture, isn't there? That documentary, The Mask You Live In.
Yeah, that provides crucial context. It really highlights how America's often narrow, kind of rigid definition of masculinity directly affects boys and young men. It talks about the immense pressure on boys to disconnect from their emotions, to devalue real, authentic friendships with other guys, to objectify women, and often to see violence as the main way to resolve conflict.
And the impact is significant.
It's staggering, really. The documentary cites research showing boys are way more likely than girls to be diagnosed with behavior disorders, get prescribed stimulant meds, fail out of school, binge drink, commit violent crimes, and tragically, to take their own lives. It paints a picture of a real boy crisis driven by these limiting, often harmful cultural expectations. It underscores why we desperately need healthier, broader definitions of what it means to be a man. Definitions that allow for emotional expression, vulnerability, and genuine connection. It connects directly back to freeing ourselves from those rigid roles we've been discussing.
Wow, yeah, that definitely puts everything into a much broader and frankly more urgent perspective. So we've covered a lot of ground today. We've really tried to offer this multifaceted view on modern masculinity, self-improvement, relationships, getting beyond the surface stuff to some fundamental insights and hopefully some practical tools.
Yeah, we explored the roots of people-pleasing, looked at different pathways to assertiveness and authenticity through folks like Glover and Peterson, delved into the unique dynamics of masculine and feminine energies with the Ida, and then brought it back to earth with how to actually build habits for change using Clear's work.
And a key takeaway seems to be that true confidence isn't really about being nice or being tough in some stereotypical way. It's more about being authentic, aligning your actions with your deeper values, your purpose.
Exactly. And we touched on that idea that maybe both love and freedom are ultimately states of fulfillment, just pursued differently depending on your core energetic leaning, you could say.
So maybe a final thought for you listening as you reflect on all this. How might actively embracing your primary essence, whether that resonates more as the pursuit of freedom through purpose or perhaps the opening to love through connection, how might that transform the way you approach all your challenges? Not just in relationships, but, in everything you do.
That's a great question to sit with.
We really encourage you to reflect on what resonated most today. Consider how you might apply some of these strategies, maybe even just the 1% rule, in your own life. And definitely dive deeper into any of these sources if they sparked your interest.